Monkey Paw, which is Jordan Peele's production company, so he funded and distributed this movie, but it's not a fucking Jordan Peele movie, so do not put a stain on his filmography for this shitty movie. All right, well, thanks for the clarification, whoever you are. Anyway, him is not it. So this young kid, Cameron Cade, who's looking up to this quarterback, loses his dad at a young age, and so he takes that pain and trauma into football to try to be the next GOAT, the next best quarterback, and he gets really good, and then he ends up finding himself in a training camp, a week-long training camp, with his all-time GOAT, Isaiah. And so we are introduced very early on to what ultimately ends up being by far the best part in the movie, him, which is Marlon Wayans' performance. His dialogue in this movie is very shallow and it's poorly written, and then his character motivations end up ultimately making no sense by the end, just so that the movie can show off its flashy technical abilities with this big battle fight style Coliseum climax that just ultimately makes no goddamn sense for the story. And if you even think about it for 2 seconds, the whole thing falls apart, which is really a shame because they do set up Marlon Wayans' performance and character as a legitimately intimidating threat, you know, when he's talking about his order of football family God, you know, football goes first and he is God at the bottom. All this stuff was interesting, and the way that Marlon Wayans was delivering these lines I thought was honestly pretty powerful and left me very entertained. And so early on, they set up the scene in day 2 of the training camp, which has a pretty brutal and shocking exercise, which I thought was the only scene in this movie which has any sort of real and effective tension, partially because this movie has some of the worst editing in a movie I've seen all year. Every single moment that is supposed to be weird or scary or artsy or interesting, like all the random demon cinematic fanfare and imagery that keeps popping up throughout the movie, it's never even allowed to develop or give time to breathe. It is just edited like a music video. You get filter spams, glitch transitions, they spam this Mortal Kombat X-ray filter over and over that switches between this thermal blood dye type of animation going between people's skin, but then when it cuts back to the live action, they have no blood on their face, and it's like, wait, so what was I even watching there? It really makes no fucking sense. And so all it ultimately ends up being a display of is cinematography and sound and technical and music abilities, and it really kills any sort of tension in the story or performances or actors working off of each other. It is basically everything wrong with modern art house horror. They're showing a ton of random demonic imagery to be weird for the sake of being weird, and trying to be gross and scary for the sake of being scary. But then if you even think about it for 2 seconds and why you are seeing these things and what these things could entail for the greater story or the world of the film, there is no sort of actual good explanation, and it's just the most surface level bullshit commentary satire on sports culture that you could find. And rich billionaires bad, and they are running a conspiracy, and they do demonic shit, and they control sports teams, I guess. And it's like, what didn't we already know? I'm gonna give him a 2.8 out of 10.